Welcome to Le Parti, your weekly destination to hear about what happened in the hospitality industry and around the world last week. I'm Miriam, and this is Nish.
Hello. So what we do for you is we dig through hundreds of different newspapers and YouTube channels and all that kind of stuff, so you really don't have to.
We also keep you updated on global events, what is up in academia, and what softwares are currently changing the hospitality industry.
We always provide the sources, so and try to stick to facts. However, we will add our own emotional spin to it. So, disclaimer: this is subjective.
All right, let's start.
Let's start. So, Miriam, how are you this week?
I'm doing really well. It's always excited to start the week uh, on a podcast with you.
Same, very much. So, as you can see, we're starting with our weekly image that I think summarizes some of the news we saw this week quite well. Um, there was a very interesting report from the American Hotel Association and Lodging Association that basically surveyed its members. And what they found out is that 82% of hotel owners are increasing their wages. And this is all as a result of basically, I'm sure there is a push from the employees to get more money, right? But most important is there's a huge turnover, and also just a staff shortage, right? So whether it's because of the COVID period where a lot of people switched industry for long term, of demographics, probably a combination of several reasons. Point is, 67% of hotels are experiencing staff shortages, and basically, in a way, are trying to fight the wage, that whole issue with increasing wages. Something me and you talked about quite a bit, I think. Actually, 2 weeks ago, when you mentioned that some of the hotel operators were surprised why people are not honored to work in hotels and just enjoy the experience they have with a minimum wage, right? So thoughts so far?
I mean, I look a lot at P&Ls and operating concepts, and I always look. I mean, also when you sign contracts, I think, and staffing is already now the highest cost, and everybody tries to reduce that in order to still be profitable, to be able to pay the rent or to be able to um, pay the owner's cut, so to say. So I kind of wonder whether that has, a big impact on the hotel as an investment vehicle, so to say. Because if hotel operators are not able to be profitable with the amount of rent that they're paying currently, um, I think it will be very difficult to maintain the current rent levels.
There is an argument to be made, right? If you bring in tech into the whole element, right,
That's
you
true.
can hire less people theoretically, and then those you hire would be by default more high skilled, right? You need people who can do more, who can be more flexible, who can also work with tech elements, tech tools, right? And as a result, you can bring the wages up, right? Hire less people, and technically maybe even keep the staff sort of section and the P&L smaller, right? So everybody's happy. Um, Now, you know me, I was thinking, will this actually work? So my first response was, I'm gonna go and find an academic paper that actually looks at people
Of
and
course you did.
and their
Of
desires
course.
and their desires to do certain things. So I found one.
I'm very surprised.
Yes, yes.
If the people cannot see, I was just like taking a sip of my coffee, being like, okay, tell me about your paper.
Yeah, I will. I will. No worries. I'm very much going to. So, I mean, there's quite a lot of papers, right, on trying to understand what makes people happy. The one I found that I found kind of most relevant to our conversation here is basically studying the Gen Y, which is us, millennials. Congratulations, you are a millennial, Miriam. Um, Basically looking at four elements that can impact the. So they looked at previous studies and found that basically there's four topics that can impact job satisfaction. In turn, will impact employee commitment, and then in turn will be able to keep the employee at the company, right? And then after surveying, I think right around 400 people, so approximately, I think 355 employees, specifically in the hospitality industry, right? That's why I think the study is more relevant, because you can survey people in the tech world, but they have very different understanding of what they should be doing. But these are specifically employees of our age group within the hospitality industry. And what you can see here as a result is, first of all, the number one topic that will impact job satisfaction and in turn, allow people to stay at the job, or not allow, motivate them to stay, is work environment. So it's the highest correlation between work environment and job satisfaction. Meaning, let's say your office is not in a cellar and you have a window and you're allowed to eat sometimes, things like that, right? The next topic is empowerment. I think me and you are very familiar, right? We don't need money, we just need empowerment. Give us more money. Give us more decision power. And then only after that, and it drops, so basically half the impact level, half the correlation you can see here. So basically, pay only has half the impact on job satisfaction as the empowerment and work environment. So technically...
Okay, so... Sorry.
No, yes, keep going, please.
No, I was just... So again, this study is on millennials, not on Gen Z.
Well, yes, but I assume, right, we've looked at similar studies before, and I have a very strong suspicion Gen Z or this generation is going to be even worse when it comes to empowerment and giving them power to do things. So,
I mean, I think I find this very interesting because I remember while we were at university, we were often sold the point that, getting experience was the most important thing that you can get as a young person, so to say, and getting the opportunity to do things yourself. But I think that's also why we did so many internships, which are not paid now, right? So I don't know if that is going to stay. I was speaking to younger people and they were, I would like to have a strong mentor that teaches me a lot of things, which we were also looking forward, but we were also, I think I was more looking for experience than strong mentors in that sense. Somehow, the idea of
there is
Google everything.
There is the fourth element, which is quite exciting, is you can see here relationship with managers. So I think that's kind of what you were touching on, and it's almost as important as pay, but just a little bit less.
Okay.
So just slightly less. So the relationship, the correlation between pay and job satisfaction is 0.21, or 21%, whatever, and then relationship with managers is 0.20. So technically, pay is a little bit more important, but most important is give millennials decisions to do whatever they want, and then just hope for the best, basically.
It's more important to have a good work environment. So actually, you should hire cool people and have a great office and benefits. That's pretty much what this is.
I mean, fair enough. We've been, right, due to our other job, looking at the interior design elements and neurology of the all. And for example, there is a study that we saw, that I found in a book called Designfulness, which talks about how employees will be around 43, I don't remember the exact percentage, 43, 46% more productive if they sit next to a window throughout the day, on average. And this is studies, the meta-analysis, right? So there's several thousand people in the studies, right? So if you put someone in typical hotel, if office, you might be aware, is a very dark place somewhere. Usually,
the housekeeping office is always next to the laundry.
Usually slightly moist or maybe a bit too much mold in there.
Next to lots of shelf of laundry and cleaning products.
Exactly. We had meetings with people working in hotels, right? From the cellar somewhere, just sitting there, crumbed up. Well, that apparently basically decreases their productivity almost by half, right? So
honestly, I mean, for a housekeeping office also, often they want people to be on the floors, right? They don't want them to sit in the office. So I guess that can also be strategic.
No, I mean, for certain people, yes, right? But you could also maybe give people a window where they can look outside when they do.
Is fair.
Right?
I see your point.
Just sometimes. Well, so in a summary, this is kind of that's in part our weekly image, right? Give them empowerment and no money, and they'll be happy, basically. And I think on that
I'm
note,
still sorry. I still need to say something else because I'm just so surprised that money is the third position.
hmm
Because maybe it's just me, but it just
I mean,
I guess
you
maybe
might be switching.
because we grew up quite safe. I mean, I think our generation's right. We didn't, at least in here, you and me, yeah, we were we didn't need to rebuild, or I guess
Yes, I
maybe
would say
or
so.
we
Relatively
grew up
speaking,
quite safely.
relatively speaking,
Relatively, in general, I cannot generalize. Okay, I can just talk about myself.
no, no,
That's
but if,
maybe why.
fair enough. I mean, relatively
Yeah,
speaking, for the past 100 years, I think our generation had it
yes.
pretty well so far. So
For
far,
the last exact, I mean, for us, it's a 30 years, right? For the past 30 years, we can talk about 30 years.
I think it will be actually
Um,
very interesting as well to touch on what you said, right? It could be that with age,
mm,
we will just switch and money becomes way more important, which is fair enough, right? I
mm.
don't think you need empowerment at the age of 55. You need money to support your family, right? So maybe if we maybe there could be surveys that we could look up maybe next week, which look at the same kind of studies, but for the sort of the baby boomers, the sort of the the generations before, and how they felt
Mm.
like when they were 20 and 30 years old.
I will let that research. I will leave that to you.
Thank you, Miriam. I appreciate that. Thank you for empowering me to do what I want. I like it very much. All
Yes,
right.
Mish, you can do whatever you like. I
Okay.
believe in you.
Next piece of
All right.
news. Anything specific you'd like to
Oh,
enlighten
where
us
did you
on?
go?
Uh,
I
anything
lost
specific?
you.
So
Mish,
we have other
please
pieces
come
of
back.
news. Oh,
So
can you hear me? Hello?
I don't know if this recording just
And
ended in
you're
general
gone.
or if we just
Great.
lost Mish.
Let's try to fix this quickly.
Let's see. Let's send him a
Hello?
Do
Miriam?
you think he's gonna watch this after?
Um,
Because it looks like it's
can you
still
can you hear me now?
recording. Yes.
Okay, that was great. Okay, we had a short outage.
Hey, but you're doing the church thing again.
Great. Let me just. Unfortunately, this is just going to be the way it is. I'm afraid.
Really?
Yes. I think the people on the other end can hear me pretty well. So,
Ooh.
can you hear me now better? Maybe.
Well,
Wait.
it would be interesting to know if that continues. So
No.
I can just,
No.
yeah, still doing the echo.
Um.
What did you do before to stop it?
I had to restart the whole software.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, I'm okay if it's not on the recording. I'm fine.
Yeah, we can check that quickly. Well, let's keep going then. Um, so tell me which part of news would you like to talk about?
All right, let me choose my news. Okay, so I found the news that Soho House contemplates for privatization. I read an article that said that Soho House has kind of been attacked by a Glasshouse research. They were stating that the business model of Soho House is unprofitable, basically, and they have way too much debt in order to be a profitable company. So, just maybe to remind people, the Soho House business model is that it's a private member club. So people pay monthly in order to get access to the Soho House restaurants, lounges, and fitness center and rooftop. So it's kind of like a community. And honestly, Mish, I always thought it was quite a smart business model because you have constant revenues. But what happened, what it says in the article, is that Soho House had very big growth strategies and they didn't reach them. They have kind of slashed the prices on their memberships, so now they're kind of facing overcrowding. So actually, it's like a limited business model, right? You cannot scale the revenues unless you're growing, and because they wanted to grow so quickly, they were expanding into less affluent cities, and that additionally kind of didn't through because of that they didn't reach their set goals, and they had to take more debt. So now, actually, the reason why this article is out now is that Soho House has actually authorized a 50 million share repurchase. So they're actually thinking to go back private to remove themselves from the stock market.
I also, when I read that, right, it sounded like they just basically did that because they wanted to prove to, because there was like rumors that they are kind of going under, and they're like, no, we can just buy back 50 million worth of
Yeah.
shares and just, do whatever we like. We're fine, basically, right? So,
Oh, you think that's just a flex, a muscle flex?
um,
No, we could.
maybe, right? Because the Skift article mentions that they did that after there was basically claims made that they're not doing well in terms of bottom
Uh-huh.
line.
Mm.
Um, right? I mean, there could be a multitude of reasons to go private, right? I mean, you may very much.
What other reasons?
I mean, there is less oversight. You can do whatever you
Mm.
want, right? So, for example,
Mm.
Mars, one of the biggest, you know, sweets companies in the world, is private, 100%. They don't have to
Mm.
report to anyone. They don't have to look at their, stock, basically price every month, right?
Mm.
Whoever is
Mm.
running the company, which currently is the Mars family, as far as I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
make mistakes there, but they don't care what people think outside of them. They can actually look at the bottom line and make sure that bottom line looks good, right? And if they feel like it,
Yeah.
they can just destroy that bottom line, burn the whole thing down, and go on a retreat somewhere for a few years. I'm sure they're not going to do that, right? But it is their choice. They own the company, and that's it.
Yeah. 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 I mean, right? That's what I was thinking in a way. I kind of really like the Soho House business model. I thought it was quite genius to have um, consistent revenues plus F&B revenues, which are additional, which are variable. So, but yes, I guess you cannot scale it limitless. You cannot, unless you open lots of Soho houses. And because it's exclusive, it kind of defeats the price of having, or not the price, defeats the idea of having a Soho house um, at every corner. I don't know. What do you think of the business model?
I mean, like kind of like you said, right? So
Mm.
a lot of publicly traded companies, their price is based on a multiplier that people
Mm.
believe in, right? Let's say there is a company that recently exploded last week, I think it's called Palantir. They basically do security software for AI-based security software for governments and for private companies. And
Mm.
their multiple right now is like 186, right? So,
Holy.
so at the current price that you're buying it, if nothing changes, you will get your money back in 186 years. But obviously, that is there because people believe that this company can, increase their revenue and make a whole lot more cash within the coming years, and
Mm.
so that 186 is going to decrease, right? That's the belief. Most companies, though, like that, are, like let's say Toyota, normal companies that are not expected to explode in 50, 100 years, whatever, are
Mm.
trading at around 10x, right?
Okay.
So maybe Soho, right? I'm not sure what their stock price is right now and what's the multiple there. But you're correct, right? Any real estate business is hard to um, do like
To scale quickly.
to do a 40x there or 3x every year, right? So I mean, startups are often
Yeah.
expected to do that 3 or 4x per year, right? That's
Mm. Mm.
at least prior to COVID. But it doesn't change the business model. Business model is great. And if you are not
Yeah.
shooting yourself in the leg and trying to get that 4x, signing a bunch of shit contracts, aka
Mm.
some companies we might have heard of before, uh,
Ah.
then why not, right? It's fine. You're
Yeah.
making your money, and if you want to make, maybe that's why they want to go private. Maybe let's be optimistic. They want to get rid of that pressure that they had and just do what they
Do
like.
their do themselves.
Yeah, or maybe
So house.
maybe
You.
some big owners in there right now just want to keep it all to themselves or something like that.
All right. Let's move on. Next
Let,
news.
let's do that. Okay, so what we have is, let's see, we have quite a few other things. We can probably jump to. I found this quite interesting. So, Europe is mandating now, since since this year, 2014, a system called CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. So, as of this year, let me just quickly check that. Basically, a certain amount of companies. Yes, so from 2024, January 1st, a certain amount of companies, I think this currently covers about 50,000 companies in Europe, are obliged to report sustainability results, or basically create a type of corporate sustainability report that they have to submit every year or quarterly, and so on and so forth. The most important goal here is that basically they have to kind of backtrack the CO2 emissions, where everything is sourced. So it's not just about what they do, but also what their suppliers do, right? So for example, if you, let's say, let's simplify this, you're a hotel company, you sell milk, quite a lot of fresh milk in your hotels, right? And that milk comes from terrible sources where the cows are mistreated, the CO2 emissions are
Mm.
crazy, they're burning coal to heat the the hangars where they keep the cows. I don't know. That's bad. That's gonna impact your score, right? So you are supposed to know what your suppliers do as well, right? And this is the article puts it as very positive, right? And maybe it is positive, but on the other hand, this is going to trickle down, right? So over the years, more and more companies will be included into this. And for hotels, for example, you have so many suppliers, so many, right?
I was just gonna
That
say.
it becomes very difficult to do that. And a lot of suppliers will become, well, basically will fall off the bandwagon if they don't do this, right? Say you're getting your goods somewhere from outside of Europe. Good luck trying to backtrack what's going on there, right? I mean, no offense to other countries, but right, a lot of different countries have very different ways of reporting and very different ways of doing things, as well as also, let's say your supplier says, yeah, I'm great, I do everything sustainably, and then they do whatever they want.
Yeah, but it sounds like a nightmare to collect that information,
Mm.
right? Like, if I look, I remember ordering for new hotel openings from 150 different sources just to open the hotel. That doesn't even include food. And I was just ordering operating supply and equipment, OS&A, not CapEx, nothing. So how that that's 2, 3 jobs.
Yeah, the initial article that I found that reported on this was in a way actually an advertisement for a company called Because, that is basically stating
Mm.
itself as the consulting firm that can help you do this. So once again,
Yeah.
there's
And I
gonna
need to pay a consultant as well.
there's gonna be a lot of very very happy intermediaries that are gonna do this for you on your behalf, right? So congratulations to that. My favorite phrase in the whole article, I think I put it here, was let me just quickly go here. Once data collection is set up, hoteliers must ensure its accuracy and be unafraid to take accountability for the company's entire value chain. Right? It's so motivating for hoteliers. Now, I mean, we have a guest coming up in a few weeks. An ex-colleague of mine, friend, who studied food quality and works in that area right now. He knows,
Oh,
yeah, exactly. He knows quite a lot about it. I think we can discuss this with him because he told me about this almost half a year ago that
wow.
this is supposed to happen. So I think we can get a lot of insight there. But for now, at least, so small and medium-sized companies maybe shouldn't be too worried. There is basically a directive for now that says that companies that are below 20 million euro in turnover per year or less than 10 employees do not have to report on this yet.
Okay.
So if you're, let's say, a small kiosk somewhere, yes, you do not have
Mm.
to report this. And I think that's fair enough. Perhaps this is going to be like a system creating kind of regulation that will create the sort of, I mean, currently, right, there is, for example, for electronics, there's a very rigid amount of certification for that, right? If you're importing
Mm.
any sort of electronics that has anything to do with electricity, you have to get sort of certification, and
Mm.
it becomes, basically anybody has to do it
Mm.
outside. If you want to bring stuff into Europe, you have to do it, and it's now
I
so
mean,
systematic that it's.
I think it's super good that we need to have that. I guess it's the only way how we can get more detail about sustainabilities, and it always seems like a lot of work at the beginning, but maybe that just creates a whole new industry of open APIs sharing information, right? Like maybe if every supplier has that handy, you can just that would just automatically be on. I don't know, invoices, or it would just be automatically provided if it's there. It just sounds to set it up. Just sounds like a nightmare to me.
The actual guest that we have coming up did a thesis on blockchain technology and how that can be
Yeah.
used to backtrack all of this, right? Because there's going to be
Oh,
a lot of tracking going on, and if it's manual,
that is what.
then
It's
it's
exactly what came to mind. The whole blockchain thing might be right. I don't know if this is also kind of a push to move towards blockchain somehow.
perhaps. But in the end, right? If this works and it doesn't become sort of a gimmick where people can report fake results, and I'm sure there's going to be tricks, on how to make sure something doesn't look as great as it is, right? So, nonetheless, right? Let's see how it goes. And I mean, it's fair enough, right? If you're a small hotel with a few employees, you don't have to do that yet, right? Maybe in a few years, but hopefully back by then there's going to be a lot more systems in place that make it easier for you. So yeah,
Yes.
I think
Yes.
we have time for one more piece of news, kind of a mix of what you and I brought in together.
Yes. Yes.
So
It's about I mean, maybe I start and then you pick it up.
yep,
So I found an article about Chinese New Year. I mean, China's Lunar New Year 2024, embracing adventure over tradition. And I was like, personally, I love Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year. Um, so we always had the image of, right, I think here in Europe, of kind of Asian travelers that they sit in a big tour bus and then they go to all the different stations and then they hop off and then they have one day where they just shop until they drop. That's kind of what we had, like a stereotypical image of how Asian tourism works in Europe. And I've seen that is actually shifting in 2024. More influencers and Asian travelers are looking for bespoke adventures, like seeing the northern lights and going to kind of secret places. So that I thought this shift was super interesting because that means if people want to attract Asian tourists, and here it says Chinese, they need to rethink their business models, right? So I don't know. I just thought it was super interesting.
it also shows the maturity of the market, right? I think that the sort of the rudimentary version of tourism is you put people on the bus, you force them, and you try to put them as many as you can, sort of like sardines in a can, and then you ship them through a bunch of locations, and you make commissions everywhere. Everybody's happy, right? But perhaps this shows that people are, yeah, they want
They
to,
get more informed,
yeah.
right? Like they have done the, oh my God, we don't know how to do this. They actually want to get to know the country. I think the barrier is coming down somehow, and I love that. I don't know. This is how I feel. This is a big change.
The interesting part to me was that I found a kind of the other side of that news.
Mm.
Basically, the European Travel Commission releases a report every quarter on sort of the major sources of tourism to Europe, right? And right, it's relevant obviously for European businesses, but also for anyone else who wants to understand what different target groups want to do. And what the report looked at, there's two topics that I found interesting. First of all, you can basically there is the element of how many people from different countries. So we have Brazil, China, US, Japan, Canada, Australia, South Korea, want to do long haul travel, right? And basically, that number goes up and down. During COVID period, that obviously dropped. Now, on one hand, you can see China dropped quite a bit in 2024. So it almost dropped by, I think, right around 14%. So 14% less Chinese people want to go on long haul travel. And perhaps maybe those are the people that, don't want to go, were the ones who, maybe want to go sort of on this booked, pre-arranged trips through buses and so on and so forth.
Mm.
But nonetheless, And then obviously the report, and for those who really want to know, we link that in the newsletter, right? Goes into very different topics as to, why people want to travel, country by country. But as you mentioned, there is then a breakdown of basically these different sources of tourists for Europe and the reasons why they want to go. So as you mentioned, Chinese, so 38% of Chinese want to travel to Europe because of culture and heritage exploration. And only right around 16% want to do it because of luxury shopping. So that is obviously, I would say, a win.
Yeah.
So, well, for some.
I mean, it depends for who, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Depends for who. But I think I don't know whether it's a win or a lose. I just think it's super interesting that consumer profile is changing. And I'm super excited for Europe also to adapt to that, to see what kind of offers, right? Whether they're able to embrace that consumer change. If Europeans are open to kind of cater to that new demand. I'm super excited to see.
I mean, this is kind of jumping on the bandwagon of experience economy, right? We talked about it quite a few times. And also, I mean, technically, this kind of travel is more sustainable, right? Because the money that people spend, it isn't going to Gucci bags that are then maybe produced somewhere in China, right? I'm not saying Gucci bags are produced in China, but a lot of luxury goods are not necessarily produced locally, right? They are spending money on local businesses, on local economy, on local foods, right? That's what
Yeah.
part of that whole portfolio of spending. So in a way, that's the most important thing, is how do people travel, what means. Obviously they have to fly in, right? I don't think anybody in China is going to take a train through the Trans-Siberian Express. But still,
Backpackers.
at least the money they will spend is going to be more impactful for the locals. So
Yeah.
I think the stereotypes previously were, as you mentioned, right, quite the opposite. So
Exactly.
all right,
Oh,
I think
nice.
I think on that note,
Thank you so much.
thank you too, Miriam, and I see you soon again.
See you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.